This is the Book and Podcast, and I've got the man, and this is going to be a big billing that I'm going to introduce him as, and it's going to be Paddy, the Book and Sugar Daddy, and that's with good reasoning, because if you're watching the YouTube video of this, the man who bankrolled the Book and official merchandise.
The official merch.
I mean, just before we properly introduce you, Paddy, because let's focus on the important part. How good is the merch?
Oh, it's so good.
It's the coziest thing.
It's so cozy. We bought it in the summer, so I haven't worn it until like last week since it was actually cold.
I haven't had much of a chance to wear it, but it is, it's premium. Yeah. It's premium, and obviously with the Book and branding as well.
Oh, like, obviously that is the seller.
Just elevates it.
That is the seller.
But more importantly, Paddy.robbins, it's been a long time coming this episode.
So long, yeah.
It's been really
since you
long.
started it, yeah.
Yeah, like pretty much when we started it, we had discussions of when can we get you on.
Yeah.
It wasn't a case of if you're coming on. It was.
Oh no, there was a moment when you came to me and be like, "I'm starting a podcast. I want you to be on it." I'll be like, "Yes, yes, yes." But it was just so difficult to try and find when you're off and I'm off as well.
Yeah, and particularly at the time as well, because for a long time, and this is how we met actually, we might go into this a bit, but like you were working nights, and it was pretty much trying to work out a time when we both could not only do it, but also you weren't tired or just coming out of nights. It was just like there was no way we could do it. So it feels almost surreal in a way to
I still can't believe it
after so long of like talking about it, to be like finally like we've managed to secure him.
We're doing it.
Paddy the Sugar Daddy. But we did leave it very open as to what we're going to discuss.
Yeah.
And an episode of this format, I think that's quite nice, because like a whole bunch of things that can come up.
It leaves it very open for anything really.
Anything. And some people find that concept scary. That's that concept of, right, we're going to have a conversation, but it could be anything. But I think you find out a lot. You find out a lot about like what you think, and like sometimes like it might just be like a minor thing. You might just talk about, I don't know, and particularly if like you're talking about something personal to you, you might sort of start talking about it in a different way than you expected. Like, so say if you've been thinking about something in your head for a while, and then you get a chance to sit on a podcast and discuss it.
The podcast,
the Book and Podcast.
The Book and Podcast.
It's I think quite refreshing. So the things we said potentially to talk about, and one that's probably quite personal to me particularly, but I know you've had like your difficulties as well, and I think because of the time we're recording this episode, it's Men's Mental Health Month.
Yeah, I definitely, this is probably like the best place, obviously for anyone, because obviously I'm just having a conversation with you, but God knows how many people will listen to it, and I'll never be there when they're listening to it.
Yeah. So
it's, in a way, I'm just telling you, but everyone's listening.
Yeah, and with that as well, like, you never know like how many people you're going to benefit from like the conversations that you have, and that's not to actually, it is to big yourself up, because you never know the impact of your actions or your words on other people. And I think that will be like a crucial thing, is that you can have a conversation, whether that's good, whether that's bad, but you never know the knock-on effect that's going to have on people around you. But we potentially said we're going to talk about Men's Mental Health Month, the hoodies we've touched on already, but one more time, like they're so comfy,
so comfortable,
so cozy,
so durable.
keep going.
Bookandmerch.com, link below.
There's no merch link yet. It's just the exclusivity at the moment.
Not yet.
We've sort of got to keep them guessing. And we said origins as well, potentially, just talking about how Paddy.robbins, like where he's come from, how he's come to be. But do you know what? Let's even if we just do like a very brief one of that. Of just talking about like any aspect of like where's Paddy.robbins come from?
I come from.
How did Paddy.robbins emerge into the world?
So I was born in Enfield, obviously. I lived in a little town called Waltham Cross, which is not far from where we are now. So I grew up quite locally to here, then moved to Welling not that long ago, and obviously I was in school in St Albans. Because my parents insisted I went to a Catholic school, and that was the only local one.
Good Catholic boy.
Not really. But But yeah, I mean, like, I obviously I came to Welling quite late. I think it was like 15 or 16 when I joined. But obviously I wasn't local. I didn't know anyone. And obviously going to school in like a different town was a bit difficult.
When pretty much at that age group as well.
Yeah.
And let's go into that a bit deeper. I think that will be interesting, is because at that age you've pretty much formed your friendship groups.
Yeah.
And you're the new guy coming in, because like you think back during school and you think, yeah, like lots of new kids came in, but like at that sort of age I can't really think of many people that came into school.
Yeah.
And that must have been difficult.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. It was definitely because I had like my group of friends that was local to me, that didn't go to my school, that I just knew from like playing football with them, like on like the massive field that was just around the corner from my house back when I was in Waltham Cross. But obviously I had to leave those behind, but I've lost touch with them over the years. Like they've gone and done their own things, and so have I. I've emerged through the ranks of Waitrose.
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, how do you think that period of time, sort of that transition, shaped you as a person?
I think it definitely had an impact, because obviously I had to sort of adapt myself to, because I didn't know what the local kids were like in Welling. I didn't know if they were posh and obviously I lived just down the road from Stanborough School, which is, I don't think has the best reputation. But
I mean, you're talking to someone that went to Sir Fred's, so.
But yeah, like it definitely caused me to be a bit like stronger in a way, not only probably more mentally, because where I live now, there's more old people. Like there's an old people's road on my road, so obviously like I didn't have anyone my age that I could go down the road, play some footy or hang out with.
Which was going from that was the norm,
yeah,
to having literally no one living,
yeah,
by you.
So yeah, I mean that was literally it. It was just such a big transition going from like a social to not social livinghood. But
so it was a difficult period of time, but you said a moment ago that it actually made you mentally stronger. That
yeah, because obviously like when you got your group of friends, like you could be yourself, you can be anything, you could be goofy, you could be smart, you could be not anything you want to be. But now that it's just me, it was just like, oh, I've got no one to be goofy with, I've got no one to mess about with.
Yeah, and I guess it.
So I sort of had to more adapt to get closer to my friends at school. Good old Nicky B up in St Albans, because like most of them lived in Hatfield,
right?
Hatfield and Boreham Wood. So I sort of had to like take the bus over there and go and hang out there. Where it was before, it was like walk 4 seconds, go to my mate's house. But things change, life moves on.
Yeah, but I think not a lot of people would have had to go through that experience growing up. But you say, yeah, it was difficult, but if ultimately as well, like it's made you a stronger person, then yeah, it's for the better.
Oh yeah, like, it was definitely one of those experiences where at the time I absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
But now I think back, I'll be like, yeah, you know what, I can see why my parents chose to move, and I can see how it benefited me.
And then we arrive at where we are here today.
Indeed.
Paddy, the man stands in front of me, Mr. Paddy.Robbins, and yeah, let's touch on mental health.
Go on then.
What keeps you mentally healthy, Paddy.Robbins?
That's a tough question. Probably music and friends, definitely. It's definitely more, because you have like the artists who make the music, they've obviously gone through something themselves, and then they create the music that speaks to everyone. So that's a good way to connect. And obviously you've got friends as well, so you can like lean on them for like support if you're ever struggling, which I've done quite a few times.
Yeah, I think with those two as well, like you've got two nice things. I think the music you're pretty much gonna have wherever you've got headphones.
Yeah.
Like that's like, and you don't need anyone to. You can enjoy it with other people, but it's nice to have things that you don't necessarily rely on people for, because there will be instances where you need to reach out, or you want to reach out, and people are busy, or people don't, let you down in those moments. So in some ways, having things that are pretty much going to be regardless of what happens, I've got this. So something like that. So music, you find that really helps.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely enjoy my music because on my Spotify I've got so many different genres.
Yeah.
Like I've never stuck to one. It's always been like 100 different genres on my phone.
And you find, I guess, do you find one that sort of like matches your mood or like how you're feeling, that sort of
definitely
speaks to you?
Yeah. I've got about 1,000 different playlists of every single type of mood.
Yeah, I mean, I can attest to that based on the sort of music that you was playing during night shifts. Like we went from like Roddy Ricch to Norwegian like war music.
You can't beat the Norwegians.
I don't even know like what some of the stuff was, but it was enjoyable but it is funny actually because you can really tell when someone's really into their music just by I don't know, like not even necessarily like, it's almost like the energy that emanates from them.
Oh yeah.
Like I think you particularly as well, like you'd put on a song and I wouldn't even have to look at you and I could tell exactly how you was going to be based on that music. And so it definitely makes sense like why that's one of the things that you mentioned that helps you maintain like good mental health.
Yeah, especially on nights, the music was definitely a major component to keeping me sane. Yeah, as I'm sure you can agree with me.
Definitely.
Especially when it came down to me and you smashing FRV, then picking it, to play my Norwegian, always helped us through it.
Yeah, bit of a mood booster and sort of like an energizer at times.
Yeah,
that's good, and I think for a lot of people that's the case. Music can be a really great, not only tool to sort of keep you just mentally healthy, but just to make you happy as well.
Yeah,
I think it's a real enhancer as well. You know, you think back to sort of some of the best moments in your life, and sometimes the best way to connect with them is you'll listen to a piece of music and you'll be like, oh my goodness, like that reminds me of such a specific time.
Even if it's just like a bit of a song, it takes you back to like a really good moment.
Yeah. And we mentioned actually on the way that Roddy Ricch song, the black box, isn't it?
Just the box.
Oh, the box.
Yeah.
The box, and it just takes us back to a very particular time when we were doing those night shifts. And for me, funny enough, actually, so for me, that was quite a difficult time on nights. Like I was mentally struggling quite a lot, and I think back to moments like that, and it does speak that as low as you can be feeling, there are still moments for you to appreciate. And I think maybe at the time I didn't really enjoy moments as much because there was almost like a cloud over me. But when you sort of look back on it and you sort of, you smile and go, do you know what, there was a lot to be happy for and a lot to be grateful for. But sometimes it is a case of like your perception just narrows to the point where it's like it doesn't matter. Yeah, but still on nights music is a major component, as I said. Yeah. And then like me and you, we always bonded over music. Like, we'd have a laugh with it.
Oh, you'd always steal my speaker and I was always so mad.
Well, your speaker was like a complete boombox as well.
I'd be like, where's my speaker? Sam's took it, of course he has.
But I remember as well, like we were doing it and then with the pandemic, I'm sure as well, like it was, because this was towards the end of my tenure on nights. Yeah. And I think it was like the John Lewis lot had come over and they were like, what on earth are like, and it was like, I'm sure we were playing like some gigs or something, just like really like hard like gigs rap, and it was just like that's just Paddy and Sam in Fruit and Veg, having a good time. So those things keep you mentally healthy and stable. So what if I were to put you on a desert island and just take them both away, just like no music, no friends? God. Would you just fall apart?
I think in a way I'd make my own way of surviving. Right. Because obviously if I've literally got nothing on a desert island, I think trying to survive will keep me sane. Yeah. Obviously like the daily fight against whatever's on that island, trying to find food, water, shelter, that will probably keep me grounded and sane.
It's almost like having... just stripping yourself back to like the bare bones and like the essential of it, because that is something I do often think about. I think there are a lot of people that struggle with their mental health, and whether it's diagnosed as not as a mental illness, I think it's part of that might be due to the way that we live these days. We don't necessarily have to struggle.
Like we've always got that's something. Like, we've always got like a friend or like a phone number you can call, or a therapist you can talk to, or someone of your family. There's always someone there.
That is a good point, but I wasn't really coming at it from that angle. I think more in the sense of the way our lives are set up these days.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We can, like, there's so much comfort. Like, we don't really have to survive. Like, there's almost just like the bubble we exist in. It's just like, it's almost like comfort is like the default.
Yeah.
And we're almost afraid of being uncomfortable. And I think, at least for me anyway, I've found putting myself in those uncomfortable situations, that's almost for me what whenever I'm having those moments of low mood or depression, those moments where I'm able to do that, it's like a great big fuck you to that depression and that anxiety. It's like you told me I couldn't,
but I've done it.
But I do think, yeah, the way society is I find we're a bit scared of feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, like, to bring it back to work, me making that transition from nights to days, that was huge for me. Like, I've never done a day shift before, and I've always known it's like the same 15, 16 people every night for the last 3 years of me working there, and me going from like 16 people to like 70 in one day. That was just quite overwhelming, especially on my first day there. I just looked around and be like, oh my god, there's so many people.
Bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
And okay, so we talked a bit about the things that help you keep mentally healthy. Let's talk about when things aren't going so well for you. What does that look like?
It's mainly due to anxiety. I think anxiety is like a big one for me, because it's always like, what if I've done something wrong, or what if this has happened and this might be the consequence of something I haven't even done, but my brain's automatically gone to there. And it's just been that case of just being really nervous about trying to take a next step in that day. And
how do you deal with that?
In some days I wouldn't really deal with it. I just sort of like hold it at bay, and then sort of like on my walk home from work, just listen to the music to try and get it out of my head, trying to get it out of my life. But sometimes it does overwhelm me, and it will cause me to be in like a really bad mood, where I like snap at people and be like, just leave me alone, just let me be. Which obviously isn't like the good attitude to have. It's obviously better if you like communicate with people and be like, that I'm not feeling well, or my mental health is a bit shit at the moment, just give me like 10 minutes to figure it out for myself.
But it's funny, because I think in those moments, because I think it does take us back to sort of almost like a primitive state where we're that anxiety, even if it's just about something that you know doesn't really matter that much, you know it's not that big of a deal, I think your mind paints a picture of like, this is life or death, and that can be that's been my experience anyway. I don't want to say that's how you felt, but the way you're nodding your head is... I've
definitely had those situations where it's something small, where it's just blown out of proportion, being like, oh god.
And it's... the mind is a very powerful thing, and that can be good or bad. You know, it can enrich things, but it can also darken them as well. And I think, it can be the slightest thing, and it could be the smallest thing to an outsider, but for you in that moment,
it's the biggest thing in the world.
And that suffering just amplifies itself and just exists with you. And actually, I want to actually read out a quote relating to that.
Story time.
So sit back. Relax. It's only
the water.
Yeah, it's only a short passage, but it's I don't know which camera to point it at. Oh, that one. So it's Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, a very, very powerful book, basically talking about his experience from being in concentration camps during the Holocaust, and talking about some quite dark stuff, but he focuses on man's search for meaning in such a horrific place, and it's very, very powerful. But one of the quotes that stuck with me and talks about suffering is this. So to draw on an analogy, a man's suffering is similar to the behaviour of gas. If a certain quantity of gas is pumped into an empty chamber, it will fill the chamber completely and evenly, no matter how big the chamber. Thus, suffering completely fills the human soul and conscious mind, no matter whether the suffering is great or little. Therefore, the size of human suffering is absolutely relative. And I think that speaks to someone who's in that state of anxiety where it's the problems. You yourself might also look at them on another day and be like, that's nothing, I can deal with that, that's perfectly fine. Outsiders might look at it and be like, why are you stressing about this thing? But it's that gas, and it's expanded to the size of the room, it's consumed you, and sometimes what feels like more than you, it feels like it's bigger than you. So I think it's a scary thing, but for me, I find, and I struggle with this as much as I preach it to other people when I'm having a difficult time, is the other thing you speak of, friends. I think that's almost like the gas safety release valve. That's the okay, whatever it is, I'm going to talk about and discuss it with someone else, and it's then a case of, right, then I can have some perspective and it makes sense now. Yeah,
definitely. Look, if you're having a bad day, like going out for a drink with your mates, that is definitely a good release valve, as you say.
Yeah, but to also talk about whatever the problem is, because when it's in your mind, it can be potent, it can be powerful, and you can, whatever it is, could be a small thing like, I said this to this person, now they don't like me or whatever, and then you go, who likes me? I'm a terrible person. No one likes me now, no one's gonna like me ever, and I've
definitely had those moments.
It's scary how from one thing
it's terrifying.
You can jump from one thing to another, but if you then were to sit down and I were to go, be like Paddy, for goodness, like, I'll listen to you, hear you out. To be honest, probably just through the process of trying to explain that to me, you'll realise how ridiculous that is. The fact that you could upset someone and then that goes to, no one's ever going to like me.
Yeah, it's just crazy how some minds can jump to a scenario and you think when you're at the end and be like, how the hell did I get here from such a small thing? And it's brought me to here, the way I'm thinking that no one likes me anymore. Yeah.
But yeah, it is terrifying. But yeah, I think us having this conversation, if anyone else has felt like that, then I think for a lot of people the easy thing to do is to sort of hide away from it, shy away from it. But that's only ever going to make it worse.
Yeah.
So in those moments, it is always going to be helpful to speak to a loved one, whether that's friend, whether that's family, and if you can, look for professional support as well, because you need to take it seriously if it's really affecting your life like that.
Yeah, obviously, like, sometimes if you're in that mindset, sometimes you think like, I can't talk to someone, I don't want to bother them, I don't want to put my problems on them, but sometimes, like, you think you have to. You think you have to for your own sanity. Like, you need to also almost sacrifice like a friendship for the sake of yourself, if you get what I mean. Trying to put your issues onto someone else to try and level it out so that you can work through it with your friends, work it out together, and obviously move forward.
And ultimately, like, in those, so say if you are in those moments and I'm sat there thinking, right, is Paddy gonna care? Is he gonna listen? Is he gonna want to do any of these things? Then if he genuinely doesn't care, if he genuinely doesn't want to listen, is he a friend?
No. You've always got to think that as well.
So it's almost more likely the case is, and to be honest, even if someone wasn't your friend, imagine most people, if you approach them and say, look, even if they're just someone you know slightly well, like an acquaintance, and if someone can tell that, like, you're genuinely having a hard time, like, the more than likely they're gonna be there and listen
Yeah.
and be prepared to sort of point in the right direction. But yeah, I think it's a lot more convincing to listen to that voice in your head that says, oh yeah, you don't want to bother anyone. But as much as anything else, not only is that the first sort of that it's helpful in its own right, but also as well it's like a first step for you to then taking how you're feeling seriously.
Yeah, like obviously everyone's got their own ways of dealing with all the issues they have. Like no one is going to deal with issues the same way. Like I'm not sure what your go-to way is for a bad day, but it's going to be completely different to mine. Like we're really good friends, but we're still like different people.
Yeah,
we bonded over like a few months on nights, and we still have our own interests, our own hobbies, our own ideals, but we still stuck together.
Yeah,
and we always will.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it is funny, I think you can, particularly as well, like in times like that, like doing that. So I think it is quite stressful working in that environment. It is like in those moments you can forge really good friendship, and it's funny because like these days I rarely see you.
Yeah.
But even still, like whenever I see you, like I'm so happy to see you and like find out what's going on with you, and it's just like it's almost like nothing's ever changed. And it's weird because that almost resembles a lot of my friendships. Like I tend to go long periods without seeing people, but it is like a lot of these friendships have been forged in the fire, and it's like we've either been through so much, or we've known each other for so long, or we've just had a relationship to that degree where it doesn't matter. But I do think that's something I perhaps need to work on, is I need to be more proactive in my friendships, in sort of reaching out and talking to people and looking for support, because I do try and do it all on my own, and when the going's good, that's fine, but when stuff does inevitably come up, that's when you come undone and unstuck a bit. So that's actually going to be a question I'm going to ask you now, Paddy, is what do you think you could be doing differently to sort of I guess boost your resilience to sort of those low periods?
I reckon for me, definitely, it's more about always being that friend that people come to when they're not having a bad day. Like if I make their day better, that's going to help me. And that's always been the case with me as well. Like if someone comes to me and be like, oh, I'm not having a good day, I just want to vent at you, and be like, go for it. Yeah. Like, please do. I mean, if that's going to make your day better, that's going to make my day better, because I've helped someone. Yeah. And that's always going to be the case with me.
But what could you be doing differently though? Like that's what I want to get. Like how do you take it to the next level?
That's a tough question. I'm not too sure actually. I don't know.
That's fine. If you don't know, that's fine. If nothing comes up,
I suppose if I'm approaching a bad situation, instead of just going straight to the end result, taking that step back, taking that breather, and trying to figure out a positive way to get through it, rather than just being like, oh my god, this is the end of the world. I suppose that could be a good first step.
But is that actionable? Like if you're in that state, are you going to be able to make that kind of, because that's quite a difficult thing to do even at the best of times. Yeah. I wonder, because you mentioned those moments where you've been feeling really anxious or whatever, and you potentially like lash out a bit.
Yeah, I've definitely done that in the past, like to friends and colleagues at work, and it has like come back to bite me in the ass a bit.
And how do you feel after the fact?
I usually just feel terrible and being like, I just didn't mean to. Like I was in such a bad mood, and they've come and asked me something that I'm like, no, I can't do. I've just lashed out at them, and obviously after I said it, I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I really didn't mean it.
How do you think we can maybe change that? How do you think, if you're feeling that type of way again, which more than likely we all feel a bit like that from time to time. So how do you think next time that comes up where you are feeling overly anxious or stressed out about something, how do you think you could deal with it differently?
Ooh, that's a tough question.
We'll work it out.
Yeah, I mean, tough question there. I'm not too sure actually, but
so what? Before, like, I think let's try and split it up even further. Then, so what's the reason that you think you lash out?
I think it all depends on the situation that I'm in. Like, I keep bringing it back to work, but like if I'm behind on fruit and veg on days, and like a manager comes up to me and being like, "You've still got loads left, but what you've been doing," and I'll be like, "I'm trying my best." I'm like, "You've got customers around, I'm still not used to it," and I'll be like, "Just leave me alone, let me get on," and they'll be like, "You can't talk to me like that." And like, obviously those situations have happened so many times, and it's got me in like a bit of a shit situation.
The funny thing is though, there's almost like a chain of stress as well.
Yeah.
So sometimes as well it'll be like your manager is then under fire from their manager and under their man, and it's like, hang on, let's just take a step back and realise, okay, Patrick's trying his best, whoever your bosses is trying their best, and their bosses, but yeah, in those moments it can be difficult to not feel emotional. Yeah.
And obviously, like, in those situations where, like, I'm trying my best, but sometimes you think your best just isn't good enough, and you start to get even more anxious. Yeah. And being like, oh my God, my best isn't good enough. What are they going to do? Like, are they going to replace me or what?
You're irreplaceable. Okay. Can you think of any potential way? So let's imagine, so like we're at work and I just go, right, why you've done half the amount I thought you would, like what's going, like how do you think, because do you tend to rush into the answer? Do you tend to sort of...
Yeah, I usually just say the first thing that comes into my head,
right,
just to give them an answer, rather than just let them linger and being like, oh God, he's trying to think of like some soppy excuse on why he hasn't done anything.
And I think most people would benefit from this in those moments where it's like high stress, high anxiety, whatever, of giving themselves time. And a good thing I've sort of come across is having one or two phrases that in those moments you almost don't, as much as sort of the knee-jerk reaction is to have a, you know, just be like, oh, like I'm stressed, whatever, like I'm doing my best. You can almost in your bank and have a bank of a couple of words where it's like, right, if someone comes at me and I'm feeling stressed, I'm gonna, instead of going, oh my goodness, like I've been trying my best, whatever, you could just go, right, actually, I get back to you in a moment. Yeah. No, okay.
I haven't really got that sort of banks of phrases, as you say.
Well, there we go. You've got one now.
I'll use it on tomorrow.
Say it. Say it. I know it sounds silly, but say it.
Yeah. What was it? Sorry.
Well, put your phrase on it. So almost like a phrasing where it's just like to try and give yourself a bit more time.
Yeah, I'll be back in a second.
There we go.
Yeah.
And whether that then means you just go off, carry on what you're doing, or you just take 10 seconds, go out the back, just take a couple of breaths.
Yeah.
And then just compose yourself. And I think it's something small like that can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
And then instead of then you lashing out or like saying something and just being like, oh, I wish I hadn't said that, or like I did that with too much emotion, you then go, right, actually compose myself a little bit. I might be still a little bit annoyed, but I can think a little more clearly now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It is difficult though.
It is very difficult, yeah. I think that might be my homework.
Your homework, yeah. Just to
try and think of something.
I think the crucial thing is it's giving yourself a bit more time in those moments.
Yeah. Not rushing into it, just taking that step back, taking a breath and trying to explain like the situation.
Yeah. I think that would help you a lot. It's just giving yourself a bit more time, because then it does tend to compound it. Then, so say if you're already feeling rubbish, and then you come out with something that you then look back and be like, I wish I hadn't said that, I wish I hadn't done that. It then becomes almost like doubly painful, because it's like you've then let it impact you, and it might have affected a relationship or a friendship or so that'll be my homework tonight. Your homework tonight is to like work out how to respond. What do you think the biggest challenges? So let's, because I think we spoke about mental health. We haven't really done it specific to men in terms of men's mental health. So I think an important question is, for what reason do you think men suffer differently from women?
I think it's because obviously men, they're like the breadwinners of the house. They're they're supposed to like take care of everyone. They're supposed to make sure everyone's doing well, everyone's getting fed. But I think that if a man is suffering, they will hide it just so they can still have that statement saying, I am a man. I don't cry, I don't do this, I just get on. But obviously, like in this society, especially in 2021, I think it's better if everyone's talking rather than hiding.
I agree, but what you talk about as well, with that mentality of like I'm the man, I'm the breadwinner, I'm doing all these things and looking after everyone else, and regardless of what I'm doing, I'm not complaining about it. It's a very sort of traditional and outdated mentality, I think. Of that's the way it has to be, and it's harmful. It's definitely,
because especially if you've got like a wife and a child, you've got to like stay strong for them. But in most cases these days, like your wife or your child, they will support you. But maybe not like 30, 40, 50 years ago. They'll probably be like, just go to your job, come back with a paycheck so we can eat. But
so you think a lot of it stems from that then, like these sort of like traditional roles?
It's evolution. Everything will grow, everything will get better. Or if it doesn't get better in 10 years, it'll get better in 20 years.
Do you think it just is a case of time then, that as we're adapting the way sort of families operate,
everything takes time to grow and perfect. Nothing is made instantly perfect.
Okay, what do you think could help that, speed that process along, in terms of men having, because I think it's difficult, because I don't want to say men have it worse than women. They have a different experience, and back to that quote earlier of like, suffering is suffering regardless. It doesn't matter. But I think in terms of men, I think the outcomes can be a lot more extreme. So in terms of when you look at things, when you're going to go to the real sort of fire into things like suicide, like roughly 3/4 of all suicides are men. And I think I probably should have looked up a few more so I could list off a few, but I know a lot of the outcomes in men tend to be more serious in terms of manifestation. So I'm not saying they have it worse than women, but I think the outcomes can be a lot more severe.
Definitely. Like there's like suffering is suffering. If you're suffering, it doesn't matter what gender you are, no matter who you are. You could be this, that or the other. Everyone suffers. Everyone is equal when they suffer. But it's always given that helping hand. But I think that sometimes if you're a man, it can, as you say, it can have more serious outcomes because of the stigma where men are men and women are women.
But I think a lot of that also as well, I think about this, and I think it's a mentality that is harmful in a number of ways. I think it's, if you're a man that's feeling like you have to do everything, what then does the woman do?
That's a very good question. That's a good point.
But then it comes down to right. So in a way, indirectly, you're saying, they're not capable of looking after themselves. And that then comes into sort of the realm of like where you then only really treat women as objects, and really sort of
And that's also very outdated.
It is outdated. And again, that's very outdated. But I think it comes from the similar place of, right, I'm the one that has to provide. I'm the one that has to do all these things. The woman can't do anything in this
especially like these days, you've got like women being the breadwinners and the man staying home with the baby, which I think is brilliant. I'd love to do that, stay home all day.
Yeah, and I think that's a fantastic thing.
Yeah.
But I think society hasn't necessarily updated the feeling towards that. Like there's still a feeling of as you say, and I'd agree with you. It's still the case that men do then feel like they have to do that, and whether that is the case or not. So they might be the breadwinner, but I think it still has harmful consequences for them. But then they end up in situations potentially where they're not the breadwinner, and they might be a stay-at-home dad, and there's almost like a mismatch in terms of what they've been told. Emasculating, where they've been told, right, you have to be the breadwinner, you have to be doing the things, and it's like, okay, I'm not doing them. So what am I? Am I a man? Am I less of a man now? And I think that's something that definitely has to change, because it's not only harmful to men themselves, but it's harmful to women as well, because it's basically saying men are the ones that do everything.
Basically, and as I say, time will grow, time will hopefully perfect. Like maybe it might be our generation, it could be the next one, but I still think that eventually it will all level out the playing field, and hopefully a better society in like 300 years time.
So what, let's say you have a son.
Oh God.
Because
pass my genes on.
No, I think this is an interesting way of looking at it. And so, you have a son, and what advice would you know, he's grown up a bit, maybe he's like 10, 11, and he's, starting to think for himself, but he still needs guidance. And you're sort of talking about him in terms of mental health, and particularly men's mental health. What advice would you give him with regards to that?
I'd say everyone has bad days. If you're having a bad day, if you need me, I'll be here. If you want to figure out by yourself, I'll be in the distance. But just know that everyone around you loves you, and everyone will listen to you, and everyone will be there if you need them. But it's one of those situations where you want to try and tackle it yourself, great, we'll give you the tools, we'll help you along.
So a balance then of, right, if you want to, we'll be here regardless, and if you want to share the problems, like, my door's open. But I think sometimes it is good to deal with stuff when, like, I think it is great to talk, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to overshare absolutely everything. And
because sometimes battling by yourself can make you better, it can make you stronger.
Absolutely. I think that's where you really show yourself who you are. But I think the problem is in terms of, if you are at the stage where it's mental illness, you're at a point where you're going to really be up against it in terms of fighting whatever it is.
Definitely.
So at that point, it's almost like, you might feel compelled to do it on your own, because then you don't have to share it with anyone. You don't have to show this demon to people. So I find for me, like, when I'm in those moments, I make the most convincing narrative to myself that, right, whatever you're dealing with, it's not that bad. No one cares. No one's going to want to listen. Even if you manage to pluck up the courage to tell someone, then they're going to think less of you. All these kind of thoughts come into my head where it's just trying to avoid dealing with whatever it is I'm going through. And so I think it is good to be able to deal with things and to get through them, because that is crucial. That is how you grow as a person. However, I think if it's reached the point where it's mental illness, then at that point I think you need to be more on top of it.
Sometimes you just got to take that leap of faith to make your life easier, because obviously calling up like a therapist saying I need help is a good first step. It's a huge step for some people. Like, some people would like never think of that. They'd always think that they're on their own, but just to take that step and go beyond your comfort zone to talk to someone is still the one step to ease of mind.
I think, but you talk about progress and sort of you think that it's naturally like almost like an evolution that we'll come to a place whereby we won't be there will still be difficult stuff we have to deal with.
Yeah,
but
there'll definitely still be sufferings mentally. It's just how people battle it, how people cope with it.
Yeah,
I reckon will change.
but I think progress is definitely the fact that we're having this conversation, and
Yeah.
it's not the easiest thing to talk about, like,
No.
for sure, but the fact that I can go to you on the way to this episode and go, right, let's talk about mental health, and you're just like, yeah,
Go
sure,
for it.
go for it. Like, there's such an openness and a willingness
Yeah.
to sort of for people to talk about it these days, that I think, yeah, that's a great step in the right direction. It's not the only step. I think there's so much more that we can do, but yeah, it's a sign that things are progressing, and that doesn't mean let off. In many ways, that means let's push on even more.
Let's poke the bear.
Yeah, let's poke the bear and just carry on with it, because use that momentum, and let's hopefully our kids, Paddy's fictional 10 to 11-year-old son, he's not going to be suffering, I guess, in the same way that we might have done.
Yeah.
But
like, it's the human way, trial and error.
Yeah.
Like, that's why cars have seatbelts, because of all the accidents. But everyone will have those trial and error moments, and eventually it will make a difference to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's quite a good analogy. Like a seatbelt, like it's almost like you're going to have an accident, but it's going to be limited. It's going to be your safety net.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So hopefully as we grow older
and
wiser, we'll have developed these sort of better safety nets and better ways of helping people when they're in these moments.
Yeah, not only helping other people, helping yourself.
Yeah, agreed.
Are we looking good? We all good?
We're looking good. We're looking good. We're almost up to 50 minutes, and like that's.
Oh my god!
I know it is crazy.
Oh my god!
Particularly as well, like we didn't really have a direction or a focus. No. It was just like let's talk about mental health and like see where it goes.
Yeah.
But no, at this sort of point of the episode, I start thinking about what kind of things you want to close off with.
I wouldn't say I really have like a closing statement. I just say that it was good to share my opinions on certain things that are very prominent in modern society.
Yeah.
Like, especially men's mental health, as it is the month for it.
Yeah. Have you got any questions for me then, maybe?
Ooh. What advice would you give your 11-year-old son?
I think a crucial bit of advice is you're not alone.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks on a number of levels. It's you're not the only one going through this. You're not the only one who's been through this. You're not the only one who's going to go through this. Like, many people have been in your shoes.
You're not the first and you're not the last.
No.
Many people have survived, and everyone has the potential to come out stronger through everything that's happened to them, whether that's you've lost someone you love, or you may have lost your job. Everyone will come out better. You always will. Every day is a day of progression. Quote of the day.
I was going to say you said you didn't have a closing statement, but like I feel like that's a really nice one. But so that you're not alone, and I think there's a strange thing with when it does get into the realm of sort of mental illness, and where you do, at least I have, convinced myself that no one could have ever feel this way, or no one could have ever felt this way, and that's your ego speaking, and in a weird way, it's as shitty as you feel, like you're trying to convince yourself you're special, that you're this only one, and it is, you need to shake that off a bit. But it's hard because you establish this position of no one else could feel this way. I'm so unique and so special. But
you've established this consistent position in your head that you're the only one. You're unique in this situation. When in reality, thousands, hundreds of thousands people have gone through this situation.
Yeah, are probably in the same situation right now, but it's a hard thing to see when you're burying your head in the sand and not talking to friends and not doing the things that make you feel good. But listen, we're all allowed to sort of wallow in our self-pity for a little bit. Sometimes that's actually helpful.
Oh yeah, sometimes you need that day or two, like whether it's your day off where you just spend it doing something you want to do just to make your mood improve, and then the next day you come back stronger at work, or you're going out with a friend and you're just in that better mood because you've had like a me day.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, you're not alone, and also as well on the level of the fact that you might be going through this, but so you're not the only one that's experienced it, has experienced or will experience it. Also as well, there are people around you who love and care about you.
Oh yeah,
so
definitely.
To know that, I think that is of great reassurance. That
I think it's not so much to know it, just to accept the fact that there are people around you. Because like in your head you might think, oh, I've got my family, but like they have to love me, they're my family. But also you got your friends who love you and care about you, and just to accept that fact that you've got those people is also a big challenge in itself.
And actually another thing I'd add as well, and the world is a richer place with you in it.
Oh yeah, definitely, especially me.
But especially you, Paddy. I wasn't speaking to my 10, 11-year-old son, I was speaking to Paddy then. But I think for everyone, like the world is a rich place, you know, like regardless of what you've done up until this point, like you could have been like a horrific person, like you could have done horrific things potentially, you know, and that, or you could have done, you know, you could feel as though you're a bad person or like you've done bad things. I think the human spirit and the human capacity is like got such a possibility to turn things around, and that's who you are. It's not what you've done, it's
the potential who you can be. Exactly
right. And it's you could, in many ways, you're a better person for having done something terrible, and then, you know, we'd rather not do that, but you know, we're people, we do shitty things.
Oh yeah.
So for someone to have done something and go, do you know what, I'm gonna accept that, I'm gonna take responsibility for it, and I'm gonna change for the better, in many ways that makes you a better person than many, because a lot of people just float through life and just
are you living or just existing? Some moments I feel like I'm just existing, but then you have days where you're like, I'm really living.
Have you got any more questions for me? Any others?
Not at the moment. Maybe later. Maybe the next podcast I'll think of some. The next episode.
I think we've touched on a few things. I think the problem is like talking about this is like we could go like way more in depth, and we were saying on the way like you could do a whole series on men's mental health and the ways in which you can make things better for yourself and a societal level. But I think we touched on
dipped our feet in a few topics,
and worked out what happens for both of us, what helps us, what you know, improves things. And I'm gonna make sure I ask you before we finish there, because there's not long left, but the thing we spoke about, what are you going to do in that next kind of situation where you're stressed out, anxious, whether that's at work or with like a friend or family? What's going to be your default rather than reacting?
I reckon I'll bring it back to the phrases where it's like, just give me a moment, or just hang on a sec, just so I can have that few moments where I can think of an answer and not just snap. Because I've definitely done that a few times. And
I think you'll feel a hell of a lot better at that, because it's funny, because it's very obvious to me, like when you've come into work, like particularly when we're back on nights, and like I could tell when you weren't feeling quite yourself, and it would be, I could almost sense that. And you never snapped at me, actually. I don't think we ever really had that. Like I think you tend
actually no, there was one situation, I think it was, do you remember when you broke my speaker? Like you turned on Bluetooth, but it didn't work for me, so I spent ages trying to pair my phone.
Was I connected to it?
And you just went, Paddy, get on with your work. And I was like, I need to fix this, I need my music.
Oh, I've forgotten about that, actually. That was quite funny though,
That was
actually.
funny, but like, I think it was then where it was coming up to like the end of the shift and we only just started picking and you were like, come on guys, we need to finish this.
And you were there just like dicking around. But yeah, so I think that will hopefully help you a lot in those moments. And yeah, it's a small thing to do, but I think often those small changes are obviously going to be easy to implement, easy to change. And
every small victory is still a victory.
Absolutely right. Let's finish there then.
Let's finish there.
Yeah.
End on a high.
Paddy the book and sugar daddy. No. So thank you so much for coming. I do appreciate
it's a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Right.